Hi, I'm Joe Saunders from Miniature Landscape Hobbies, and in this episode, we're going to look at Battlefront Miniature's exciting new book, The Flames of War Supplement, Berlin Soviet. I'm going to go ahead and reveal all the secrets, so let's get into it. Miniature Landscape Hobbies is proudly supported by these sponsors. My Flames of War Soviets have been collecting dust. Literally. This isn't because I dislike them. It's because my son Mitchell and I played the Firestorm Migration campaign not too long after its release, and he and I just wanted a bit of a break from the forces of the hammer and sickle. But as they say, absence makes the heart grow fonder, especially when a new gaming supplement is coming out. Berlin Soviet is about to be launched for Flames of War Late War, and I'm getting pretty eager to get back to my Soviet paint schemes. So let's get into the book and see exactly what it offers players for Flames of War. The content of this book is as you would expect from Battlefront. It's pretty great. A historical background and plenty of maps greet you to set the stage for your upcoming games. As always, some of the more specific unit histories are shown to inspire your own model collections, and a range of different areas of the conflict are covered. This is the typical approach for Battlefront, and they've been taking this for the entirety of 4th edition. Yes, the book is entitled Berlin Soviet, but it really looks at the entirety of the Soviet offensives as they closed in on the Third Reich in 1945. Of particular interest to me is the inclusion of information on the invasion of Romania and Hungary. Why? Well, the Axis Allies book was probably my favorite 4th edition supplement, and though I bought a huge Hungarian army to play, I've actually not got it out of the box yet. So, hopefully this new book might provide motivation for me. Maybe. From here, the details get pretty granular. They cover the nitty-gritty of the final conflict of the war, the Battle of the Reichstag. This makes for a cool scenario and model building option for the future. It also makes me excited to think about what will be offered in Berlin Germans. The desperate actions and the addition of some of the last-ditch weapons and units used by the Axis should make things interesting. With the background aside, we come to the units in the book. And what you'll see is pretty cool. Cool not because there are vast amounts of new stuff. In fact, there's not a whole lot of new troops and vehicles in the book, but what there is more evolved. I guess that's a decent way to say it. More evolved. Let me explain. By this late in the war, the troops on the Soviet side that are still participating are all mostly combat-hardened veterans. So you start seeing stats in this book that are more akin to what you would see in other Allied armies. Here is the force organization chart. T-34s, Hero Infantry, Rifle Regiments, and IS-2s are all here, just as you would expect. And then there's a huge variety of, Sherman tanks. Okay, as most of my viewers are likely amateur war historians, this should not be too much of a surprise. But here we finally have it, the MCHA, the M4 Sherman in Russian service. And this constitutes a big part of the additions to the book. Hero and regular formations are all provided surrounding the use of the M4. Now, this is pretty nifty, but the M4 is already widely known to typical Flames of War players, since they're basically in all of the other ally lists. With the hero version, you get the solid front armor of 7 for the tank we all know. And we also get decent skill and motivation values. Combine this with the versatile 75mm cannon with its AT of 10 and firepower of 3+, and you have a good option, even for late war. To hunt for enemy armor, you also get the 76mm variant. This Sherman has a better gun with an anti-tank rating of 12. This punches hard, and it's sure to become a welcome addition to the Soviet forces. If you want to use Sherman tanks to produce hordes, which are more commonly associated with the T-34, you can do this by taking the M4 Sherman Tank Battalion. You get more of a bargain basement price, although the stats really aren't too different from the hero version, except for the abysmal skill of 5+. Next in the book is a really cool option, the forward detachment. This comes in two varieties, the M4 and the T-34 version. Essentially, these are dedicated combined arms formations. You'll need to decide if it's led by a tank or mortar rifle stand as an HQ, but otherwise you get to really mix and match your options. Your core choices only really include the hero flavor of units, so forward detachments don't come in overwhelming hordes. Now we get to the infantry in the book, and we see another evolution in the Soviet offerings. Why? Well, there aren't really any bargain basement troops in this book. This makes it unlike other Soviet options, but it makes sense, because the surviving infantry by 1945 were not the lightly trained conscripts of mid-war, but instead grizzled veterans. First up is the Hero Guards Motor Rifle Battalion. We've seen these guys before in other Flames of War supplements, but they're worth a mention. They're kitted out like most Soviet infantry, with a good cross-section of weapons, including captured Panzerfausts. Stats-wise, they're pretty good, with 3+ for their hit-on, motivation, and skill values. Except for this, their assault. Here we see a 2+. A 2+. Do you want assault troops? Look no further. These guys want to fight in close. After this, you'll find the Hero Reconnaissance Formation. This is also a pretty elite formation, though it has painfully small unit sizes by Soviet standards. The addition of M3 scout cars or captured German half-tracks makes them pretty interesting though, and you'll still find exceptional stats like the motor rifle troops, except you get an added bonus of a to-hit number of 4+, and you still get the 2+ assault. You don't have the numbers to swamp your opponents with these guys, but if you can use the Hero Reconnaissance troops wisely, you should outclass your opponents and have a very versatile set of troops for almost any mission profile. After this, we come to the Red Banner Rifle Regiment. These are your aggressive Soviet units that come in large quantities, except they also have veteran stats. Their confidence goes to a more typical 4+, but they still have a formidable skill of 3+. What's really cool though is that these guys are hit on 4+. They're hard to hit, as basically any German grenadier infantry, and that goes a long way. You also have the option of swapping out rifle companies with storm groups. This gives you a smattering of SMGs for closer range fighting and a really great mix of weapons, including mortars and flamethrowers. To top it all off, we see the assault value of 2+ yet again. Before we leave the Red Banner Rifle Regiment, I must mention that in this force organization chart you also find this, the 203mm Howitzer, a new model not yet seen in Flames of War 4th edition. This is a ridiculously big gun. It can be used as an artillery piece with an anti-tank rating of 4 and a firepower of 2+. But they only come in 2-gun batteries, so they're a far better option for direct fire. And these are truly scary. They're AT-13 with firepower auto and the brutal stat. These howitzers will annihilate anything you can hit with them. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not a model for every occasion, but if you're using it for the city fight rules, infantry sheltering in buildings are in big trouble. The last infantry option is the Hero Engineer Sapper Battalion. These troops have been covered in detail before in Bagration Soviet. Suffice it to say, these are also fearsome assault troops. The smoke pot options means they have their own smoke screen to cover their assault or movement, and they have a staggering variety of weapon choices. Once again, you also see an assault value of 2+, and this time also a tactics rating of 2+. These guys can get around the battlefield quickly, and when they get there, they're almost guaranteed to be able to dig in to resist any counterattacks. As a final point, I must note that these guys have sapper body armor, making them the only troops in the game that have saving throws in assaults. I have been intentionally holding back on mentioning a couple of force options until now, so I guess I should mention them. These are the IS-2 Late Guards Heavy Tank Regiment and its hero equivalent. I don't want to go into too much detail on these, as they were the star of the show for the Bagration Soviet release. But it's worth mentioning they're still available, and yes, they are still scary. Only now, they also have a front armor of 11. A 122mm cannon toting tank at AT-14, firepower 2+, brutal, with a front armor that most guns on the Axis side can't penetrate. I guess I need more Tiger 2s now. This brings us to the support options. And there's not a lot of new stuff here, so I'll only want to highlight 2 options. First is the M10 Tank Killer Battery. Yup, you can now get Shermans for your Soviets, and so you can get M10s too. Sorry though, these are the 3-inch gun versions, not the ones with 17-pounders. Last is the 160mm mortar. The Soviets were known for their reliance on huge numbers of mortars, so we get a new choice, flinging AT-2 firepower 2+ goodness at the enemy. The firepower value of the 160 mortar is a real appeal, as well as its 56-inch range, which outclasses other mortars in the game. Moreover, like a lot of other mortars in Flames of War, these have a very low points cost, so you're sure to see a lot of these on the table. The book now provides a reprint of the city fight rules and some new scenarios. I don't hear a lot of players talking about the city fight rules, but I urge you to pay close attention to them. My regular opponents and I adopted the Flames of War city fight rule system in our games years ago, and we all love them. This means that if you ever stop by Miniature Landscape Hobbies Studios for a game, you'll want to be familiar with how the rules work. Everything now wraps up with catalog pages to show the upcoming Soviet starter force and the models that will be released in the coming months. But there's also something else here. Clash of Steel, a brand new starter set with both Soviet and German models in it. This is like the Hit the Beach box set that offers tremendous value for new players or for veterans, and it can really help you flesh out your existing forces. In this case, though, it's Eastern Front themed. I must admit, I have a pretty extensive collection of models from all nations in Flames of War, so another starter set rarely catches my interest. But I'm sure to get this one, as it has a really impressive mix of units. So there you have it, my review of the upcoming Flames of War supplement Berlin Soviet. Personally, I think this is a solid book. It doesn't offer a huge number of new units, but there are some cool options to be had, and any hardcore late war Soviet player is sure to want it. Now all I need is to go get a feather duster to prepare my Russian tanks. Please support us by subscribing on Patreon. Our subscribers receive a 5% discount on paint and building supplies from Torchlight Games, promotional products from Event Horizon Hobbies, free access to 3D print files, and a whole lot more. If you wish to make a one-time donation, click the button for Super Thanks. That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. Please remember to subscribe, press the bell button so you get immediate notification on our videos, and until next time, remember to keep building life in miniature.